Hi everyone, welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us the founders of Kisan Serve. Introducing the founders, Mr. Niranjan Sharma, CEO of Kisan Serve, Arun Kumar, CFO of Kisan Serve, and Praveen Tiwari, who is the Chief Digital Officer at Kisan Serve. Niranjan, Arun, and Praveen, welcome to ELI.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much,
Priya.
Priya. Thank you for the opportunity.
I would request each of you to introduce yourself to our audience. We'll start with Niranjan, then Arun, then Praveen.
Uh, I'm Niranjan. I'm mainly from agri-tech industry. I have around 18 years of experience. I worked with various companies, different projects like Reliance Retail. I was one of the core team member who was responsible to establish supply chain across India, to establish the brand Reliance Retail. Then I also worked with Mother Dairy for the same industry, fruits and vegetables. I worked with Spencer's. Then recently, before the Kisan Serve, uh, I was involved in one big Alfonso Mango project, which we did in Malawi. First of its kind, grown Alfonso mango outside India in 1,500 hectares of land and imported back to India in off season. And the project was very unique because of the climatic condition. If we know about Alfonso, we we are sure that Alfonso is mainly grown in Ratnagiri or Konkan area. If someone says that I wanted to grow Alfonso in Bihar or Orissa or Bengal, people say it is impossible. But we grown in Malawi, Africa, in black soil, different climatic conditions. But the taste was, I think, almost matching to the Indian Alfonso mango or better than this. So this was one of its kind of project, and then we started this answer. So this is all about me.
So, hi, Priyaranjan. My name is Arun Kumar. I have been into banking and finance with likes of HSBC, DBS, ICICI Group, where I was responsible to set up teams for wealth management and other banking activity. I've been in banking for 16 years plus. That's all about me.
Hi, Priyaranjan. This is Praveen Tiwari. I'm the CDO for Kisan Serve. I have around 26 years of experience in IT. We're working with various multinationals at various positions. The last I worked with was Cognizant, and I was the global directory head for Cognizant, delivering various projects. So I was into design and delivery of IT projects at the last level. That's my background. Thank you.
Thanks for the introduction. Now we will talk about what is Kisan Serve. So, can any of you help me understand what is Kisan Serve?
Priya, Kisan Serve, we started Kisan Serve in year April 2015. And the purpose of starting Kisan Serve was mainly because I am from this industry and I know the problem this industry is facing since long time. And still the same way it is happening, the trade. The major problem we thought here is the price discovery and a fair competition for the demand side. So that was the core issues. For this, we started Kisan Serve in 2015. And we are in agri-tech and we are in different segments, starting from D2C, trade, eat. So we have created a lot of segments for different businesses.
What is the problem statement that you are solving through Kisan Serve?
As I said that the purpose of this answer was the price discovery and competition. So in this industry, if we talk about the buying and selling practices, whether it is mandi system or whether any corporate is buying, they almost follow the same practices. And the linkages of the supply chain is, I think, many numbers, many numbers. So suppose if I am a company, say XYZ, and I wanted to buy 1 tons of tomato, I have few options available. I will find some farmers directly. I will approach them. I will find some farmers directly, or I will go to the mandi and buy from there. Correct?
Correct.
Yes. So if in that case, we are restricting the competition to a small size. Few farmers, few traders, few mandis. It's a perishable. You have to take decision very fast.
Mhm.
Within an hour. So that is the way the trade was happening. So what we did is we developed a price discovery framework. We call it BIDB.
Okay.
What this framework does it, we have connected millions of farmers through our system, farmers as well as suppliers from the market. One part is the supply side. So we have connected farmers as well as suppliers to our system. Another side, the demand is coming to our system from D2C, which we call e-commerce companies. We have the trade, we have the retail model. For the Kirana store model, we have developed a Sajedari, which is very unique model. So the demand is also, so from various business segments, demands are coming to the system. Now, demand is coming, it is consolidating, and all the farmers, millions of farmers are seeing live data and they are participating in price discovery. So imagine millions of farmers are participating in price discovery on our real demand, which is coming to our system. So the competition size is big. So I can get produce at a much competitive price, which is, I think, very difficult for others to get. What I did through this system, I eliminated the links of the supply chain, because all the stakeholders, the step one of the supply chain, the farmers, the growers, they are directly participating to the bid process, to the demand side. So we eliminated the complete different links of the supply chain. The second thing what we did is we created a big competition. The sample size is big. It's 1 million in number. So these two factors helped us to discover the best possible price from the market, which is, and if you compare this with the earlier system, few suppliers, few farmers, you get their quote and supply from them. Who is the best? The size is very small. So this is the problem we are solving.
Okay, fair enough. You're basically having a platform which matches demand with supply and comes up with a price that is good for both buyer and the seller.
True.
Having said that, I'd be very curious to understand how do we make revenue out of it? We have built a data platform, if I'm not wrong. Who pays us and how do we get paid for that?
See, our revenue model is arbitrage model. And what we do is, we are doing the same way business like others are doing. But the only strength with us is, which is the biggest strength, is the price discovery. If I can buy tomato at 5 rupees, others may buy at 8 or 10 rupees because of my system, the in-house system, what we have developed for the price discovery. Otherwise, if I am creating value from the supply chain, eliminating the linkage, so I am generating value. So that value we are passing on to farmers. They are getting better price realization for their produce, one side. Another side, I am also reducing the end consumer price, because we know that India is the second largest producer for fruits and vegetables. In spite of that, lots of people are not able to afford fruits and vegetables on their daily need.
Mhm.
So we have to think about their side also. So we are trying to reduce our price for the end consumer. So if you see our pricing trend for the end consumer, we are around 30 to 40% cheaper as compared to any other competitor, any other companies in the market. So we are passing on values to the consumer, we are passing on values to the farmers, and we are creating values for Kisan Saf as well.
So in one sense, if you look at, we have democratized the whole system. Okay? The system that we have made a level playing field for all the players, irrespective of the size, whether it's small or big. So this type of system you'll find with the multinationals or big companies like ITC and others, right? But we have made the functionality available to the lower segment also, so the masses. We have brought that to the masses, and that's the benefit that people are achieving. And in return, we are getting the good price discovery model, and we are able to pass it to both the end consumer as well as the producers, both.
Okay. But I would still like to understand who pays us. How do we get paid at the end of the day?
So just to summarize it, I'll just summarize it. It's end-to-end solution provider, which starts from, it's a demand-led system. So demand is coming, right? And other side is supply. So supply stakeholders are farmers, a lot of traders, vendors, million of farmers who are quoting their prices. Other side is our demand-led customers. So in between we have arbitrage. So that's what is our revenue.
So in simple way, we buy product from the farmers. We add our all this operation cost, our profit margin, and offer to the end consumer.
Okay.
So that is the end consumer who are paying us. Because it is not like that we are simply adding cost and passing on to the end consumer. We are buying, we are adding our all operating cost as well as profit margin, and then at a certain price we are offering to the end consumer.
Understood. That also brings me to the next question I have. I'd love to understand how it all started. So on the website, I saw you are touching at least 1 million consumers through your platform, but it would have started from the first consumer and first seller. I'd love to understand how did it all started. When was the first customer and the first seller got onboarded, and how did we reach to this point?
See, when we started, I think Arun has a very good story to tell.
So I'll brief you, in very summarized way. So we started Kisan Saf in 2015. We started with a very puzzled, meeting with all of us, because we all belong from diverse background. So we went to purchase tomatoes from wholesale mandi, where we all three purchased at 3 totally different rate. It was 9, 18 and 22 per kg. So imagine 150% gap among us when we were buying personally. That time we realized the main core issue of this problem, and we started finding out the solution, which we started with our platform BidBee. Okay. This was when we started with B2B customers. We started the business with them, and this was 2020 when we saw a complete 360-degree change in industry across the world. We were going through troubled time because business was down. All B2B businesses were either shut or at very minimal level. And we were approached by Pune Jila Parishad collector. He approached us. He had got some references that we actually provide a very competitive rate to all the corporates. and we buy in big volume. He requested us because, at that point of time, if you remember, one side farmers was troubled because they were unable to sell their produce. Another side, housing societies and citizens were troubled because they were unable to buy. And even if they were buying at very high prices. So that was the moment he requested that if we can do something for the society, for the farmers. And we took another 8 to 10 days because that was not the model we were running. We were not running into D2C. We tweaked our model, we tweaked our system, and we started D2C. And first of all, we started with our Jila Parishad team itself who said, okay, we would also like to buy. So that's the story started. They were our first customer, and then it's complete word of mouth. We spent not a single penny on marketing, and that's the consumer base today we are seeing. And proudly, I can say at this moment, because our budget is quite tight. So on marketing strategy, we have made a lot of, but spending absolutely not a single penny. And we have acquired so many customers today.
Okay. If so much organic marketing is happening already through word of mouth, then why do we need to spend money on marketing? Having said
We
that,
are proud of that.
I also understand that we have achieved product market fit already. Otherwise, why people would talk about us? Can you help us understand what is the roadmap for next few years? What is the vision we have for the platform?
So post this D2C launch during pandemic, we saw a huge, you can say, market opportunity in this space, which is actually $850 billion of market opportunity. So when I dissect this 850 billion, Priya, there is 3 main stakeholders. So to start with, we can see these e-commerce players, aggregators, likes of Big Basket, All Giants, Grofers, Swiggy has come. We are also in that segment. That's hardly makes 3 to 4% of this $850 billion. Come to next segment where we can see these organized retails, where we can see Reliance Retail, Tata's Star Daily, More, Spencer's. That again makes hardly 6 to 7%. So put together that these 2 segments are making 10%. Where is this 90%? This 90% belongs to our neighborhood Kirana shops.
Right.
And looking at that, we realize that if that's our main vision, if we would like to hit this entire segment, if we would like to cater the whole country, we have to rope in, we have to partner with Kirana shops. We launched, looking at this segment, we launched our another segment called Sajedari. So Sajedari, as this name stands for, it's absolute Sajedari business relationship with Kiranas, where from day one, we spend time with Kirana and we simply quote them. You start business from today and you start earning from day one without putting a single penny on capex, not a single rupee investment, not a single penny hassle towards wastage or buying anything. You start earning. That's the first thing we quote to all these Kiranas. So that's the segment we started.
Okay.
That's one segment. Linked to that, we are launching our another segment, Eats. Eats is actually, going to enable all street side vendors, which actually consists, if you look at total food segments, they consist 80% out of, this 100% segment. So we are going to make them digitally enabled to buying their produce at 30 to 40% lower price than what they are buying today. And then we are going to launch our Express in next 15 to 20 days, because Express, that's the main need of everyone. So Express is going to deliver to our end consumers within 30 minutes. And that's there our Sajedari customer is going to, help us, and we are going to leverage that benefit without putting a huge charges upon end consumer by putting last mile delivery. Because if even today, if you order a loaf of bread or let's say, a milk pouch, they don't charge you anything. So these all products are already in our basket, and they have been accepted by the market, they have been validated, and it's running successfully. So it's totally, segment wise, totally diverse segment.
Okay.
So these are product roadmap we can see at this moment.
Can you also tell us what are the different challenges that you have faced so far while building and growing this venture?
Challenges obviously we faced because whatever we are doing here is we are not following anything. If you talk about our technology, what we have developed, it's very unique. So, there are lots of combination we tried over a period of time, and if you see our business segments, so for each and every business segments, we have crafted our business model accordingly, and which is very unique. So this is as far as the technology is concerned, we faced challenges. Then obviously when we started our D2C, because prior to pandemic, we were completely dependent on hospitality segment. When pandemic hit the country, everything was shut. So dependency on only one segment was a very, I think, immature decision for us when we started this business. Our revenue gone down drastically. Then we started thinking about diversification, though in the same industry, agri-tech. It is not that we are diversifying to any other industry, but for same industry, agri-tech, fruits and vegetable focused, or 80% basket contributes fruits and vegetables, hardly 20% grocery. So fruits and vegetables, a customer buys from either retailer or e-commerce. A retailer, kirana shop, goes and buy from mandi. A company goes and buy from mandi. A hotel owner goes and buy from mandi. Restaurant owner goes and buy from mandi. A thela wala food shop goes and buy from either neighborhood shop if the quantity is small, or from mandi if the quantity is big. So everybody, but in different segments, they are going to the same source. So we created a business model separately for each and every segment. For each small vendors, for kiranas, for D2C, for e-commerce companies, we have the alliance segment also, where we cater the big corporates like Big Bazaar, Swiggy, Instamart, or Grofers, Big Basket. So these companies also we are supplying to them. So so for each and every segment, we have crafted our business model. Facing the challenges in pandemic, then we diversify to different segments. And now over a period of time, we validated each and every segments, and now it is running well. But during the pandemic time, the main problem what we faced is dependency on only one segment.
Understood.
See, the basic thing from the technology perspective is scalability, right? And acceptability within the community that we are trying to serve. So both needed a lot of training and education, both sides. The one side, this consumers were never accustomed to demand-driven system, right? That you and we changed the habit of the consumer also to plan their purchase. So doing that itself was a lot of learning curve that we had to go through, that how to gain acceptability within that community, right? Both from the perspective of the supplier side as well as the demand side.
Okay. Speaking of scalability, and also speaking of the term agri-tech, I think agri-tech has become a scalable thing in India, and it has got special attention from the investor community as well. If that were true, I would love to understand if you have raised any fundings and anything, if you can share with us your fundraising experience.
I will just give you that, our name itself, DSS, is distribution, system, and scale. So we have thought that upfront itself, that these are the three things that will require for business, and that's where we came up. So funding will.
So that's the parent company of KisanServ DSS. And to tell you very proudly and honestly, whatever we have achieved till today, that's totally on our own, and it's completely bootstrapped company. KisanServ is bootstrapped as of now. We have validated, we have taken a lot of risk. We have seen actually a lot of challenges. Last 2 years, specifically during pandemic, that has actually made us Superman. A lot of challenges means a lot of unforeseen, you can say unimaginary situation had come. A simple person has also seen where, and in our case, we were delivering to whole Pune and to some part of Bombay also, to some corporates. And we were like a Superman actually. And our team, trust me, we relied upon them and they never let us down.
And our motto basically, if you look at Piranja, that first I should believe in myself. Right? And that's how our belief, we were so adamant and solid in our belief that we said that we will put our own money, not take someone else's money and then blow it off. If it's blown, then it is my money, it gets blown. I'm not going to hurt any of the shareholders or anyone.
So now we have validated, we have, yeah.
All our ideas and the platform has been validated. And now we say it's time to start the roadshow, which we'll do it from mid-September this year.
And Priya, I tell you one story when we started KisanServ. To be very honest, it is not that we have never tried it. When we started KisanServ, we do hear lots of stories about the startups raising funds and all. So we did the same thing. We approached few big investors just in the beginning itself. And they asked the numbers, what you are doing. We said, we have this plan, but we have not yet started the business. So that was the turning point when we decided that let's focus on business. Don't go behind money. So since 2015 till today, we focused on business and we built up what we are today.
Okay. Coming to my next question, it is very clear that you are solving a big problem for the society, and it's a huge task, and that needs a lot of motivation and drive behind the person to take such a big challenge and solve it. Can you help us understand what drives you to become an entrepreneur and solve a big problem? And number two, to work in the segment that you are operating in. You could have worked in IT and may build a venture out of it. Anything on tech side, on fintech, all sort of industries are there. Why agri-tech?
Okay, so I will narrate an incident that I usually speak to my partners. I'm from the IT background, right? And Arun was my personal banker, used to look up the funds. So always I used to keep, and I had the global exposure. So I had seen India moving through the technology revolution. And each and every sector was touched except agri. And that's where I used to pitch to both of them. Let's do something for agri. Money was not the motivation at all. It is a byproduct, right? All of us were doing very well in our own professional, career. So that's where let's do something for society. When I say something for the society in this sector, if you look at, give something to the farmers, some extra stuff. If today they're earning 1 rupee, let us give them, say, 1 rupee 25 paise. But that 25 paise will only come if I myself earn 2 rupees. Right? So that's, and at the same time, why should the end consumer pay 4 times what is there available in the market? Pass the benefit to them also. So that's what we did actually.
That's why Agritech.
And that's why Agritech, and that's why all three of us jumped together. He had the know-how from the business perspective. He had from the finance perspective how to set it up, and I knew the IT side. So that's how these pillars formed a home now, which is delivering to people.
Okay. There was another part to my question, why entrepreneurship? Although you wanted to solve a problem, but entrepreneurship is a risky thing to do. If you have already established yourself in a stable career, then it is not something that you want to do.
So if you look at all three of us, we are not risk averse. After working for 25 years, 18 years, 15 years, we still jumped into this something new, right? We had put everything everything at stake. So we want always to create something which is beneficial to the surrounding, our ecosystem. And that's what our driving force is today also. We are solving one or the other very minor or major problem, but it is always creating something out of the blue. And that's why you see our system, you will not find it with anyone. It's very easy to copy someone else's system. But if you look at our system, it's not a copy model at all. It's right from scratch. We have built layer over layer. Our learnings of 6 years is there in a system, and as well as the processes that we follow.
I'll tell you very interesting incident which I have been doing in my college.
Sure.
I believe that since that time itself, somewhere in my mind that I'll do something towards entrepreneurship. So I was in BIT Ranchi, BIT Institute of Technology, and my hometown is Patna. So Patna has a huge market for books and cap at very cheaper price, at very lower rate. So during those days when I used to carry 2-3 extra caps, I used to see a lot of my friends used to pay, they were ready to pay any kind of price. So if I was usually buying at 100, they were ready to pay me, can you give it to me for 200? I started doing that during college. I started buying 15 or 20 caps during the college. So I believe, and on books side, same. So Patna had a huge market for books. There was huge discount, 50%, and students were ready to pay, ready to buy for even 20% discount because there was no discount in Ranchi. So I had leveraged that opportunity many a times, and during all these discussions, and when we thought of that, let's do this, I was more than excited and thrilled.
Priya, being in this industry, I have seen lots of things. I was in purchase in various companies, in supply chain. I have seen how this industry work, how the people work, how the company representative work, what is the nexus between company representative and the supply side. This is one part. And I was seeing the problem, but I was helpless. Every company, everywhere, same problem exists. This drives me to do something for this industry, to make this system more transparent, increase the competition. Otherwise, this industry will follow the same trend which is being followed since last 100 years. Same practice. Imagine a farmer sells tomato at, nowadays the tomatoes they are throwing because they are not getting the price. If you have read newspaper, 5 rupees or 10 rupees a kg. And end consumer is paying. At retail shop, it is being sold at 40 rupees a kg. Where the remaining money goes? The difference where it goes? Obviously, every stakeholder is eligible to make some profit. But who else is taking the bigger chunk of that? So this is the one reason, entrepreneurship and in this industry, because I have seen a big problem. The second thing is, if you are in corporate working with someone, you have to follow the same routine every day. It's a monotonous kind of thing. And over a period of time, it becomes boring. When I left my corporate career, I was sitting in my office, and all of a sudden, I resigned by evening. I had nothing to do next day what I'll be doing to earn money, to run my family, to meet the family expenses. It was a tough time. And I have also seen the time when I was traveling to other cities by state bus, Maharashtra MSRTC bus, because I do not had money to pay for the fuel. I was doing something and I have gone through that pain, but I was decided that I will do something. Then we started developing this. So initial journey of many entrepreneur is I think is very challenging and very tough to survive. But you have to somewhere accept this. You have to go through it. From day one, you don't expect success.
Very true. Uh, that brings me to my final question for you. I would love to understand what are the different lessons that you have learned as entrepreneurs, which we can take away and apply to our entrepreneurial journey. And more importantly, we don't have to go through the same learning process that you have gone through yourself as an entrepreneur.
Uh, what I would say is, if you are developing something, if you are an entrepreneur and doing something, then do for a larger scale, do something for the society that should benefit someone in the society. That is scalable, and that is, I think the acceptability rate is much higher. The second thing is, make it very user friendly, because if you see the demography of our population, Indian population, to reach the technology at the last step of the pyramid, the bottom of the pyramid, they are not very techno friendly kind of person. So you have to make your system in such a way that they can use it in a very friendly manner in day-to-day life. This is the technology part. The third part is, I would say, create value. Create value. Marketing and branding is different thing, and everybody should do that. But initially, if you are focusing to build a business, and from day one, I do not believe that just creating sound in the market and doing nothing. Do it first, do some business, and then go to the market and create your sound and create your brand and all kind of the marketing gimmicks.
What I would say is, my take will be dream. Don't stop dreaming. One has to dream and have belief in your dream. That's the first thing. Second thing, discipline. There'll be a lot of noises around, but you should be focused in achieving your dream. If there will be diversions in life coming through, but if that distracts you, you'll not be able to achieve the dream. So dream is the first point. Second one is live that dream to the core. Okay, and have belief in them. Then only you'll be able to achieve what you want, what you have dreamt.
one very important thing which we have seen during our journey, that be always ready to mold yourself according to large masses. Don't be stubborn. If market is saying no to something consistently or continuously, try to understand the market and mold yourself, change yourself quickly, present it, and let's see the acceptability. Till the time acceptability is not going towards masses, change, and be ready for that. Don't be stubborn.
And if you refer to Ram Charan, what he said, market all the signals, you should be ready for the bend. So those weak signals also will tell you when the next bend is coming. If you're not aware of that, you're out of the market.
Well, on this note, I think I am out of questions and it's time for closing the session. Thanks for your time, all three of you, and it was an absolute pleasure to speak with you and collect all the learnings that you have got as entrepreneurs. I would say my best wishes for Kisan Sir.
Thank you, Priya.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for sharing this opportunity with all of us.
Thank you.
This was brilliant session. Yeah. Thank you.